All right, friends, I want to share with you 3 big life lessons today that we can learn from this very period of the counting of the Omer. We mentioned last time, it's interesting because the Jewish summer is designed in a way that we count for 7 weeks, we count days, then we mourn for 3 weeks, the destruction of both of the Jerusalem temples. And then for 4 weeks, we repent, we did the teshuvah. So that in a way, summer is not an era or period of chaos as it is and wildness as it is in many parts of the world, but it's really a period that was quite focused both on our past and on our future. So I want to focus really on this first of the 3 main periods of the summer, the Jewish summer. That's the 7 weeks of counting. I want to share my reference sheets and we can dive right in. Here we go. Can you all see them? Okay, all right. So the commandment to count comes obviously from the Torah, from Leviticus 23:15, in which God asks us to count until count the days, from Passover until Shavuot, as in a way preparation for the giving of the Torah, which will occur after those 49 days on the 50th day, and the giving of the Torah, which we celebrate anew, and which we receive, really, the Torah that we receive anew each and every year. But this is the verse. Does anyone want to read the verse here? You shall also count, usfartem. Anyone? Yes, Janet, go for it. You got to unmute yourself.
Okay, you shall also count for yourselves from the day after the Sabbath, from the day when you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. There shall be 7 complete Sabbaths.
Right. So it's interesting because, Shavuot, just to add to that verse, Shavuot is the only festival, as opposed to Passover and Sukkot, for example, that doesn't have a date in the Torah. Shavuot, instead of having a date, really has a time frame. And what's the time frame? After you count 49 days, after you count 7 weeks, then you'll be able to celebrate Shavuot. There shall be 7 complete, as Janet just read here, 7 complete Sabbaths. After the 7 complete Sabbaths and the 49 days that we've counted, then we have Shavuot. So in a way, the counting is very much related to Shavuot, because Shavuot doesn't happen until the counting is completed. So the counting, in a way, is representative of the way we ought to prepare ourselves for Shavuot, for the giving of the Torah. What's the best mindset we can develop in order to receive the Torah? Counting. Why counting? So in the words of Rabbi Allouche of Liadi, because counting does not just mean 1, 2, 3, 4, but the word for counting in Hebrew, usfartem, also comes from the word sapphire, right? Usfartem, sapphire, or sapphire in Hebrew. And that's because we ought to illuminate every day and bring light and meaning into each and every moment of the day. And that is indeed the best way to prepare for Shavuot, for the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, for that ultimate holiday in which we became a nation. Now, the deeper meaning to this really refers to, if we are to take the words of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi and really dig into them, we would find one of the deepest lessons and one of the most important lessons of life. And that is that the best way to prepare ourselves for being that chosen nation or for receiving the Torah, it is to make every single moment of our day meaningful, to ensure that no moment is squandered, to indeed take every moment and not waste it in laziness or waste it in sadness or waste it in frustration, but take every moment of the day and make the best of it by transforming it into a moment of light that can illuminate the world, light that faces outwards, not just inwards. That's the best way we can prepare ourselves for Shavuot, and that's the best way indeed to live. This is perhaps why Rabbi Eliezer would teach, and that's the third reference here, that one should repent one day before your death. Now, his students asked, well, no one knows on what day they will die. So he said to them, well, that means that you should repent each and every day, every single day, because tomorrow one might die. And all our days then are spent in a mode of repentance. What does this mean? That if, God forbid, I'm dying today, then I won't enmesh myself in trivialities. If someone cuts me in the street, I'll say, all right, fine. So what? I'm dying today. I have better things to take care of. If someone hurls an insult towards me, so what? I have better things to do today. I'm dying today. And if one is able to live in such a state of mind, as Rabbi Eliezer suggests here in the Mishnah, then one can indeed, usfartem, bring light and meaning into every moment of the day. Then the important becomes important and the trivial becomes trivial. And then we're able to make something out of our lives, something out of our days. And that's the best way to live. And I want to develop this, but I'm sure you all recall this riddle. If you do, but does anyone want to read this riddling question here? Imagine there is a bank. Anyone?
I'll read it.
Yeah, please. Go ahead, Julie. Please.
Okay. Imagine there is a bank which credits your account each morning with $86,400, carries over no balance from day to day, allows you to keep no cash balance, and every evening cancels whatever part of the amount you had failed to use during the day. What would you do?
Right. So what would you do? What would anyone here do? Would you start buying cars and homes and who knows what? I asked this question to our high school students. You know, we started high school last year in Ishmatadin. One of the girls said, well, I would buy a gift card. And then that you can keep. That's clever.
Very clever.
Yeah, right? Very clever. It's the best answer I've received to this riddle thus far. Even though I don't know if you can buy, I told her, I don't know if you can buy a gift card for $86,400. That's a lot. But still, it's a good answer. But what would you do?
Well,
So-
Rabbi,
Yes.
you know, clearly you're talking about time,
Yes.
you know, and so
right.
the lesson here is how do you spend your time and trying to use it and utilize it to do good in the world and
Right.
and not just for yourself, but, you know, and I mean, that's a really beautiful analogy. Thank you.
Right.
I
Thank you.
hear you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, because you're right. So we're speaking about seconds. There are 86,400 seconds in a day, and none of them roll over to the next day. So we have to use each and every one of them to the best of our ability. Now, I will say it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't rest. It doesn't mean that you can't recharge. Of course, that's part of using your time wisely. But it also means that your day is not just about resting. It's not just about pausing or recharging. It's also about doing. And it's also about, again, usfartem, bringing that light and illuminating the world with all the opportunities that are presented in front of you. So that's really why we are asked to count for 7 weeks. The best way to prepare ourselves for the giving of the Torah and to prepare ourselves for life altogether. Because at the end of the day, the giving of the Torah is really the giving of the compass for life. It's the moment in which we took upon ourselves to live with direction, to live with meaning. That's what the Torah comes to provide. But the best way to prepare ourselves for a life of meaning is to first and foremost appreciate the value of every single moment, dare I say, of every single second. That's why, you know, that famous quote, that to realize the value of 1 minute, just ask a person who missed a train. To realize the value of 1 second, ask a person who just avoided an accident. And to realize the value of 1 millisecond, ask the person who won a silver medal in the Olympics, you know, especially in the marathons or in sprint races. There, the races are won by milliseconds. So those people can appreciate the value of a millisecond. But again, it comes to teach us how important it is to relate to time. Now, I'll make the argument that I made during the soul study the other day, and that is that I do think that our generation have been experts in creating time-saving machines and time-saving startups and entrepreneurial ideas and so on. But we've really haven't had the expertise yet to know what to do with all of the extra time that has been given to us. And very often we just squander it. And I think that there's a danger to that, because a lot of the troubles that a person experiences in life, a lot, not all of them, and not most of them, but a lot of them do come from pure boredom. That's true on an individual level, it's true on a collective level. When I'm bored, we're not born. God did not create us in a way that we are born just to die or just to not do anything, to be completely passive. We were born to be active. In the words of Job, Adam la'amal yulad, that a man was created to toil. And if we don't produce and create, then something inside of us really feels not just wasted, but feels in a way meaningless, valueless. So we need time to be able to achieve, to work, and to accomplish. But if we are given that time, finally, thanks to all of these time-saving machines, and we don't do anything with it, then we've created for ourselves all sorts of troubles, because boredom is not just boredom. Boredom doesn't stay as boredom. Boredom eventually leads to all sorts of terrible things. When I see it with my own kids, we see that with kids. When they bored, they go crazy, they go wild. I don't think that stops when you become an adult. If you're bored, you also go crazy. So then use your time wisely, purposefully. Jump on every opportunity that God gives you. Sometimes, we have all sorts of excuses, but throw away those excuses and go and value every second, because again, maybe we are dying today, in the words of Rabbi Eliezer. And then the question will be, what have you done with all the time that God has given you, with all the life that God has given you? And that's why, again, the most important way, to prepare ourselves for the giving of the Torah is to start to value time. Usfartem lachem. Don't just count, but bring illumination, bring meaning and light into every moment. Usfartem, coming from the word, and you shall illuminate. So that's one big idea, one big life lesson that certainly we can use during this time period in which we are counting. I'd love to open this up again. If you have any disagreements, questions, please feel free to
Rabbi,
speak your
can I
mind.
make
Yes.
one comment?
Yes. Yeah. Linda, yes.
You always talk about actions being the most important thing that we as Jews do.
Right.
So, not our words. So what time really allows us is the ability to do actions that do good in the world, whatever that might be, whatever, any person's particular definition is, as long as it is more than self-serving.
Right. No, very good. Very good. And the focus should be, I so agree, should be on actions. By the way, sometimes I see it with my own children sometimes, right? Sometimes we have the desire to act. We have the understanding that time is valuable, but we just don't have the structure. So sometimes it's also just a matter of structuring our day. Make sure you have a calendar when you wake up in the morning, knowing exactly what you're doing today. Because our mind is excellent at playing games with us. Oh, yes, you needed to do this, you can delay this. It's almost like what Mark Twain would jokingly say, that, he would play on the saying that says, don't push for tomorrow what you can do today. You all know that sentence? But Mark Twain would play with that sentence and say, don't push for tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow. That's the ultimate procrastinator. But here we learn the opposite. That don't push for tomorrow what you can do today, and don't push for the next hour what you can do during this hour. And the best way to make it happen, I think, is to have a schedule, a structure, that when you wake up in the morning, that you're forced. Well, you wrote it down in your calendar at 9:30. You have to do this, whether you want it or not. And then you become almost devoted and committed completely to your calendar. Obviously, there will be other things that might jump at you, and sometimes you have to adjust the calendar, and that's fine. But as long as you know that you are committed, I think that's one of the best ways to ensure that our time is not squandered. As long as you know that you're committed to a calendar.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes.
I've been reading the Sfirot in English. One is from Rabbi Simon Jacobson, and one is from Rabbi Sachs. Now, I have not seen any in Hebrew. Where do I find it in the Hebrew? The Sfirot.
The Sfirot of each and every day?
The ones that we do every day. Sfirat Omer?
Yes. So you're talking about the different characteristics or the counting?
Yes. Yeah. So I've been doing it with Rabbi Simon.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
With Jacob Simon, and also with
Jacobson, yeah.
With Rabbi, believe it or not, Rabbi.
Right.
So, right.
So
I want to know the Hebrew.
Yes. Yeah. So what Chana is hinting to is that beautiful, and I think maybe even necessary exercise that in most prayer books, I'm sure you'll find it in many prayer books. Maybe not. I don't know. I didn't check the prayer book you're referring to, but in most prayer books, you'll find that for every day in which we count, So you'll find an attribute that needs to be worked on. Now, I would encourage everyone, like you kind of was saying, to buy, it's like $9 on Amazon, I think it is, last time I checked, to buy the Sefirat Omer, the Counting of the Omer guide by Rabbi Simon Jacobson, in which every day he speaks of the attribute of the day. Altogether, there are 7 attributes, but they are each mixed with one another. So it's 7 times 7, which is 49. And we count during 49 days. So really every single day is a different attribute that we can work on. So that the counting also becomes a self-refining exercise. Now you have, in both prayer books, you have the attribute of the day. And I don't know, I mean, I can tell you that most prayer books you see it, and the Sephardic ones, Ashkenazic one, it doesn't matter, Chabad ones. So if you don't have it in your prayer book, look in another prayer book, I'm sure you'll find it. But otherwise you can get the guide.
So the Sfirot in Hebrew are all the same. The English translation is different.
What do you mean they're all the same? No, there are 7 of them. 7.
No, I know. But if you look at number 1, in one.
So the first one is chesed, which is translated as kindness. The second one is gvura, which is translated as justice, and so on. So maybe the translation differs just because of, the translation, the way we translate things, but the attributes remain the same.
Well, wait, so the Sphira in Hebrew is one word? I'm a little confused.
I'm not understanding the question.
Okay, when I read the English, when I get the emails every day, okay,
Yeah.
or Facebook, then it's in English.
Okay.
Hebrew, is it one word?
No, what you're getting in English is there's 2 sfirot every day, really. There's one main one, and the main one mixed with others. So for example, the first one is chesed, kindness mixed with chesed, chesed sheba chesed. So you would have 2 words. In English, it's kindness in kindness. So that's 3 words if you had to translate it. But I think that what you're getting is just an explanation of that attribute. And that already is Rabbi Jacobson's explanation. So, and he wrote it in English. So I don't know if he translated it in Hebrew ever, but that's what, yeah. Yeah, but again, I'm glad you brought it up, because I would encourage everyone to connect to the attribute of each and every day when you count the Omer each and every day, not just to appreciate, again, the value of every minute, like we were speaking about, but also to launch ourselves in this self-refinement exercise that is also a part of the preparation that we ought to have towards the giving of the Torah on Shavuot. Okay.
Wait, Rabbi, what are the attributes?
Okay, so you have 7 of them.
Right?
Right, so you have 7 of them, and again, all 7 are mixed with the other. The first is kindness, the second is justice, the third is beauty, so also connected very much to compassion. The fourth is netzach, which is persistence or resilience. The 5th is glory, hod, which is also translated as dignity. The 6th is yesod, which means foundation, which means consolidation. And the 7th one is malchut, which means kingship or royalty and being royal. Those are the 7 attributes according to Kabbalah. And again, they are all mixed with others. So every week there's one dominant attribute. There are 7 weeks. Every week there's one dominant one. But each day that dominant one is mixed with one of the other 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can actually buy a book that lists
Yes.
them day by day.
Absolutely. And in fact, I don't know if I have it here, but I would encourage you to get Rabbi Simon Jacobson's book or guide. Every day he has a short exercise, and I think he has an app now.
What'd you say his name was again? What'd you say his name was again?
Rabbi Simon Jacobson, Simon, and then Jacobson. He's the one also who came to our Soul Conference, if you recall.
Okay.
The app is called My Omer. I have it here on my phone.
Oh, it's an app. Okay.
It's also an app, but there's also a book, Myomer.
Mm-hmm.
And today is day 25, so it's endurance and endurance. And for example, he gives you meditation, and then he actually gives you the blessing where you can count it. But for the sake of it, yes, the meditation of today, examine the endurance aspect of endurance, its expression and intensity. So everyone has willpower and determination. We have the capacity to endure much more than we can imagine and to prevail under the most trying of circumstances. Then the exercise is, which area of your life needs endurance at this moment? And how can you ensure to endure this very moment or this very challenge? Anyway, and then, you can keep a journal, you have an exercise, you have a little video for each and every day. It's a great app.
Thank you.
So
Sure.
Rabbi, I just found the one I just got from the rabbi.
Yeah.
If it's okay with everybody, I will send it to Janet and she can forward it.
Okay, fantastic. If it's okay with Janet. Janet is okay with you?
Janet. I don't know where she is, but I'll do
Yeah,
it.
Janet, no, she's on mute.
Sorry, yes, you can send it to me, Kana, sorry.
It's
But
in
I-
the mail. It's in the mail.
Okay,
Okay, I
fantastic.
was looking, there are a couple apps, Rabbi, that says Omer Counter or My
Yeah.
Omer.
My Omer.
It's
And
it's
it looks like
blue.
this.
Perfect, that's it. That's what I
That's
found.
it.
But
That's
the one I get every day is from him. And it's like I know him. He's like my body because
Yeah,
here they should,
he spoke here.
Okay,
Okay,
Okay, all right, thank you
I
so much.
found it.
All right, guys,
Thank
let's continue. All right, lesson two. Lesson two, we learned from a terrible tragedy that happened during these days of the Omer. The tragedy was that Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of disciples, which means 24,000 students, and they all perished during this time. And that's why they all perished in the plague, maybe croup, according to one opinion. And when the Talmud tries to derive the lesson of what can we learn from this tragedy, the Talmud says, very clearly, that they did not treat each other with respect, and therefore the best lesson we ought to take from this period of time.
Excuse me, Rabbi,
No,
I'm sorry.
that's
There's
it.
some noise going on somewhere. Can
Yeah.
everyone please mute?
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, sorry.
No problem. Thank you. So the best way we can really grow from this tragedy and learn a lesson from it is by treating each other with respect, because apparently they didn't treat each other with respect. Now, this is in a way, therefore, a mourning period also, because we are mourning the deaths of those 24,000 students. Just imagine, just to put in perspective, imagine how many more books of the Talmud there would be. How bigger would the Jewish library be if those 24,000 students had lived? Look how richer and more diverse and meaningful would the Jewish source of wisdom look like if those 24,000 students would have lived. So it's a time in which we reflect upon those terrible deaths, and at the same time also we mourn a little bit. And there's some actual laws that pertain to these very days, at least until the 33rd of the Omer, because according to some opinions, that's when the plague ended. And those laws include not being able to marry during these days. So I'm reading here from the second reference. Marriages and wedding celebrations are not permitted. Attending concerts with live music is not permitted during this time. And purchasing and wearing new garments that bring joy due to their quality, etc., is also not permitted. Now, if it's to make a good impression because you're going on a date, or if it's because of an important business meeting that you have, then you're allowed to wear those garments. So there's loopholes for each of those prohibitions. But again, it's a time of mourning. Now, it's interesting to note that Rabbi Akiva's students did not show each other respect, while Rabbi Akiva was the one who taught that you should love your fellow as yourself, that commandment is the greatest rule in the Torah. Fascinating. What? They couldn't follow the words of Rabbi Akiva? If he taught them to love your fellow as yourself, why couldn't they treat each other with respect? says clearly here that they did not treat each other with respect. Well, 1 second, wasn't your teacher the one who taught you to love one another, and you can't even treat each other with respect? What's your problem?
Rabbi, could it be that they didn't respect themselves?
Their own selves.
Right.
That's a
If
good
you don't
answer.
respect yourself, you can't respect.
Very good. Very good. Very good. It could very well be. But then I want to go in that direction. And I think the answer really is in the idea that love and respect are two separate things, if you think about this. Love brings two people close to one another. When I love someone, I want to kiss them, I want to hug them. Respect actually, in a way, creates a little bit of a distance between myself and the person I respect, because I have this awe towards that person. So I'm going to take my respect and my distance a little bit. Now, to go further into this, what love pertains to is what we have in common with one another. You love sports, I love sports, great, we love each other. You love good food, I love good food, good, let's hang out together. You love this, I love that, let's love each other. Respect actually pertains to that which we do not have in common with one another. You do this way, I can't understand it. I can't love it. I just don't understand why you brush your teeth this way. I can't understand why you dress this way in that color, or whatever other difference I may find in someone else. I just can't understand it. But I'll respect, I can't love it, but I respect it. So love really again relates to that which we have in common. Respect relates to that which we do not have in common. And therefore I need just to go and respect it because I can't love it. Now the students of Rabbi Akiva did not show respect to one another. They did love each other. They did follow the teaching of Rabbi Akiva quite well, but maybe they followed it too much. They had too much love and too little respect. They suffocated each other with love because there were no boundaries. Love again breaks the boundaries. I love this, I love that. Let's come together. Let's unite to a point that there's really no boundaries between us. Respect is what creates boundaries. You have this difference, I have this difference. We can't unite in this difference because we don't understand each other, but we can respect. We can create a boundary in which we say, okay, I'll give you your space, you'll give me mine, I'll give you your difference, you respect mine. So maybe they had too much love, which suffocated, which created the suffocation, instead of having that respect, which can create some space to breathe. And this is what we have to work on during these days. Not so much on the love that we owe one another, but more on the respect that we owe one another. And I think this is true, especially in our day and age, when someone can be vilified just because he has a separate opinion than I do. Someone can be butchered just because they vote for someone else, politics, for example. Or someone can be called all sorts of names just because they think differently, or they act differently, or they behave differently. Where's the respect? We don't find it much these days. And therefore, I think this period of time in which we're encouraged not to love one another, but to respect each other, is a period of time in which we really, really ought to teach this to the world, to ourselves first, and then to the world, the ideal of respect. Because without respect, there can't really be a coexistence. Without respect, there can't really be love. Without respect, there can't be relationships. The Talmud says that in the context of marriage, of spousal relationships, then one should love his spouse like he loves himself, but he should respect his spouse more than he respects himself. In a way, what the Talmud is implying is that respect is so much more important than love. Because when you have respect, then the person feels, I can be wholesome, I can be me, and you can be you. And we can harmonize with one another. But we want to have, there's no respect, then I feel like I can't be myself. Because I have to compromise myself in order to be, or in order to at least be valued, or to be loved, or to be in a relationship. And this is exactly the exercise we ought to launch again during this time period, in which the students of Rabbi Akiva did not treat each other with respect, and they suffocated themselves to death because there was too much love and zero respect. we have to reverse that and have much more respect that we have love. And especially relevant these days. And I would say that, you know, I'd love to hear your take on this, but I've said this many times. I think that's why maybe the goal of relationships and the goal of society altogether should not be unity, even though that's a popular word these days. Rather, it should be harmony, because what unity implies is that we have to be one. How can you be one? We have differences. So how can you expect me to unite with you? There are things that you'll never understand in me, and there are things that I'll never understand in you. So there really can't be true unity. So the only way to achieve unity in that case is if I lose some of myself, and you lose or you compromise some of yourself, and then we can come and be one. And therefore, I think that unity really is maybe a nice utopia, or it's a good illusionary idea. But I think practically we shouldn't seek to achieve unity. We should seek to achieve harmony. And the difference is that in harmony, I'll allow you to be you, your full wholesome you. You'll allow me to be me, my full wholesome me. And together we can harmonize. I don't have to lose some of myself to unite with you. Nor do you have to lose some of yourself to unite with me, to create this illusionary unity. We can coexist. We can we can come together in harmony, like instruments in a symphony, or like colors in the rainbow, or you use any other metaphor that you want. But I can be me, you can be you, and then we can work together in harmony. I think, therefore, that really should be the goal in relationships and in society altogether, much more than unity. And this is what Rabbi Menachem Mendel Morgenstern of Kotsk would say very famously, that if I'm I, because I'm I, and you are you because you are you. In other words, if I am I, if I'm allowed to be me, and you're allowed to be you, then I am and you are. But if I'm I because you are you, in other words, if I try to be like you and you try to be like me, then I am not and you are not. Then I am not I and you are not you. And then obviously the world can exist. Anyhow, so that's lesson number 2. Again, I'd love to hear your take on this lesson too. Yes, Linda, please.
Rabbi?
Yeah, yes, Julie.
I never really understood that quote until you just explained it like that. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, of course, no, thank you. It's a great quote. It's actually one of my favorite quotes. And
Yeah, I really like it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now that I understand it, I really like
Of
it
course,
even
thank you.
more. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Linda, you wanted to say something.
I did, Rabbi, and I lost it, and it was really
Okay,
oh, I'm bummed. Oh well, say la vie.
that's fine. I'm sure it'll come back to you. When it comes back, you can share it. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So I want to transition to lesson 3, and I want to connect it back. I'm going to go up to the top reference once again, connect it back to the theme of these 7 weeks, and that is that you shall count for yourselves, right? 7 complete Sabbaths or 49 days, as we mentioned. Now, what's interesting is that usfartem, as we said, does not just mean to count, but it also means to illuminate, coming from the word sapphire. There's another word that comes from the word usfartem, another Hebrew word. This word really has 3 meanings. It means to count, means to illuminate, like we said, but it also comes from the word sipur, which means a story. Usfartem means, and you shall create for yourselves a story. What does that mean? And the commentaries explain, and this is how we'll tackle your lesson 3. The commentaries explain that really, we, each and every one of us, we are creating for ourselves a story called the story of life. Just look at every life as if it was a story in a book or a story in a library, a book in of itself. And everyone is the author of their own story. What I do today will be written in that book, will become a part of that story. And after we die, then what we did with our lives will be the story that will become a part of this library of the world. A story that might be told to others, or might be told to our children, might be told to our grandchildren. But what this really means, if you think about this, is that each and every day we are writing a chapter in that story, whether we want it or not, whether we're actually taking the pen and writing it, whether we're actually doing something about our lives or not. The way the day will be is the way a part of our story will be. Because the story is the accumulation of all the days of our lives. So today has an impact on the story that will be told about my life, the story of my life. And that's what Usfartem really means. You are telling a story, remember, and therefore remember to live life meaningfully. So that the story that you are creating today, just by living, is a story that will be worth telling. It won't be a story that will be a wasted novel or wasted fiction or wasted whatever type of other story you may be sharing with the world. And based on this idea, really, I want to go to the Midrash that speaks about 3 ways of living. But Linda, go ahead. I know you were raising your hand.
Yes, well, what I want to say is really, I'm reading this amazing book for book club tonight. It's by Noah Tishby, and it's talking about Israel, the most misunderstood country in the world.
Yeah.
And really what you were describing was how Israel came together in 1948, how it was just a conglomeration of peoples from so many places.
Yeah.
And it was like such a coming together. And that was just so moving me as I've been reading this book. And, you know, I have to honestly admit, I've learned so much from this book. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that because it's basic stuff, but it's really a profound book. So if anybody else has, heard of this book, I would encourage you to read it because yes, and you're just talking about a story. Well, I'm like reading about Israel's story, and that is just putting so much differences together to create a new people. And it's awesome. It's an awesome, concept, which I only now came to realize.
Right. No, thanks for mentioning that. And by the way, this is true. This idea of Usfartem, sharing a story is true for countries, for societies. That every day that goes by, we add a chapter to that story. And really, but the ones that are the masters of the story or the authors of that story, the masters of those destinies are ourselves. So we have the choice to make. Are we going to write a nice chapter for our story of life today or not? Now, again, there are 3 ways to live based on the Midrash. And I think the third way really is the way that creates the best story of all. And the story, the first way, as the Midrash says, is to live like a fleeting shadow. And this is all based on this verse that says that our days are like a fleeting shadow. And so the Midrash says, does anyone want to read here this reference? I think this is a very powerful reference to read. Midrash Rabbah Bereshit 96:2. Does anyone want to read this? This verse means. Please, Julie, go for it.
Lord, what are human beings that you care for them, mere mortals that you think of them? They are like a breath. Their days are like a fleeting shadow.
Right. Okay, now go to the next reference. That is a commentary on this description that our days are like fleeting shadows. Go for it.
Okay, this first means that there are 3 types of shadows. One is the shadow of a bird, which flies by quickly and casts its shadow, but for a fleeting moment. The second is the shadow cast by a wall. And finally, there is the shadow generated by the tree.
Right. So there are 3 shadows. And these 3 shadows really reflect 3 types to live, 3 types of lives, or 3 ways to live. One is that we can be like a bird. The shadow of a bird is fleeting. And that type really refers to people whose shadow is also fleeting. They were maybe so engrossed in themselves, so engrossed in me, that after 120 years, when they pass, they realize, gosh, we left no impact on this world. It was all about me, not about the other, not about the world. That's a fleeting shadow. That's the shadow of a bird. That's one way to live. Another way to live is the shadow of a wall. A wall creates a shadow when? Either in the morning or in the afternoon. When the sun shines on its sides. When the sun shines on top of the wall, it doesn't create a shadow, because it's on top of it. And this refers to people who maybe make an impact when they were children, or they make an impact towards the end of their lives. But in the middle of their lives, there's no impact. Maybe because they're too busy, maybe because they're suffering too much, maybe because they're so, again, immersed in their business or whatever it is. So, and then they catch themselves at the end of life saying, before it's too late, let me make an impact. And then the shadow comes towards the afternoons of their lives, so to speak. And then you have people who are like the shadows of the tree. And that means that their impact is ongoing. It exists all the time, not just when they were young and not just towards the end of their lives, but also in the middle of their lives. They are almost obsessed with making an impact. They don't want to just have a fleeting shadow like a bird or fleeting shadow like the shadow of a wall. They want to have the shadow of a tree, which remains there forever. Now, the best way to live, of course, is to live like the shadow of a tree. And that's the best story we can tell. Again, going back to the word usfartem, which means, and you will tell the story. The best story to tell is that today I've had an impact. Tomorrow I'll have another impact. Yesterday I also had an impact. And each and every day we ask ourselves the question, have I had an impact yet today? We said this last class, but I think that no one should be going to sleep at night without asking themselves, well, did I do something for someone else today? Was I a tree somehow, somewhere today? Or was I like a fleeting bird? And if the answer is no, I haven't done anything yet, even if you're about to go to sleep, then go do something before you go to sleep. Because that's what it means to have the shadow of a tree. That's the best type of story we can tell. And I want to just conclude by, there's other references here that help us connect to this idea, but you know what, maybe we'll read the last reference and then I'll conclude with just one word. But does anyone want to read here the very last reference? The words of the Bible that when God called man or called Adam and he said to him, where are you? So they really refer to the question we should be asking all the time. Does anyone want to read the last reference? Please go for it. Yes, please. Thank you.
The words of the Bible were not meant for their time alone. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Were not meant for their time alone, but for all time. So it is with the question God asked Adam and Eve. It was not addressed to them alone, but to each of us in every generation. We squander our days and nights on artificial temporary objectives. We become consumed with self-preservation and gratification, and we believe that we can hide from the consequences. But always, after we have lost our course, we hear the voice of God in our heart asking, where are you? What have you done with your life?
Mm-hmm. Right. Where are you? And that's in a way the same type of question we should ask ourselves before going to sleep. Where are we? Not what am I or why am I, but where? In comparison to the world around me, where are me? Where am I? Have I impacted that world? Have I impacted the where? And that's how we live as shadows of trees. Now, I just want to conclude by maybe dedicating this thought to a beloved member of our community who made Aliyah, moved to Israel just a few years ago. I believe it was in 2019. And many of you, I think, knew him. His name was or is Mike Lipson, of blessed memory. Mike and Stephanie Lipson and his lovely wife, Stephanie, made Aliyah in 2019. And they were passionate Zionists and they followed their dreams to live in Israel. And just last week, Mike died in his sleep at the age of 77 years old. But I've been speaking about Mike now for quite a few days. And what amazes me is that everyone who knew Mike and everyone who had the privilege of even being treated by Mike, he was a doctor, he had many patients, always spoke of his infectious smile, of his ability to truly live in someone else's spirit and even heal not just a person's body, but heal a person's soul. Not that he had to as a doctor. All you needed to do is heal the body, not the soul. But he healed people's bodies and souls together. And not just with these patients, but everyone he came in contact with. He had this love, he had this kindness, this goodness, this joy about and this light about it that he wanted to just spread and just do good and touch people and in the best of ways. Every encounter of his with anyone was not just another encounter, it was an encounter full of life and full of joy. And to me, I think he's a personification of what it means to live like the shadow of a tree, I want to dedicate really just this last thought to him, because in many ways, he stands as a model of how a person should live. Every single day, I know we live in a broken world. There's no doubt about that. I don't think there's a doubt about that in anyone's mind. And people are yearning for love and yearning for connection. And, sometimes they won't say it. And they do all sorts of things that shout it. We're just maybe too deaf to hear it or too blind to see it. But we live in such a world, and it's easy to do favors to everyone, yet we shy away from that so too often. And really, in a way, that's what we say here at CBT, that we've created a community not of followers, but of leaders, because it's up to everyone to lead the way and to do that act of goodness that only you can do, to play that role in history that only you can play today and each and every day. And how do you do so? By being other-oriented, by ensuring that every encounter of yours is as illuminating as Mike's was, and to ensure that indeed the impact that we have in this world is not an impact that we had once upon a time when we were children, or that we will have towards the end of our lives, but rather an impact that exists today and every day. And even when the sun is shining in the middle of our lives, so to speak, to use the words of the Midrash. And I would encourage everyone, therefore, to really think of one mitzvah that we can do consistently. And if we become bored of that mitzvah, or if it's become too easy, then add another mitzvah. Add another mitzvah and another mitzvah and another mitzvah. And I think, my humble opinion, that's really the only way to live.